A brief introduction to functions in R. This is not to teach you how to write a function. This is more to understand how R works and how functions work in R. Functions are a very important concept in many programming languages, but especially in R. R is a so-called functional language. That means almost everything in R is a function, and these functions behave in a certain way, which makes it at once very easy to work with them in certain contexts, and also it makes them an important concept. So what is a function? Let me start by sharing my screen as always. And here I have an RStudio open, but before I do that, I will draw a couple of schemes on the screen. So what is a function? A function in mathematics, you know, for example, the sinus function, right? You have a sinus function, sinus, sin x. That means the function takes x and turns it into something else. And in computers, the functions, or in R, the functions work the same way. You have a function, you put something in the function, and the function returns a result. So you put in some variables, and you get a result. The important part here is to understand the following. You can put many variables for a function, depending on what the function does. Sometimes it's just one parameter, sometimes there are no parameters, sometimes there are many. However, the important message is that the function returns only one thing. So this thing you can then save in a variable. So very often you will see result, and then the assignment operator, and then the function name of, say, var1 and var2. That means the function takes var1 and var2, does something with them, calculates the product or something else, and returns a value that we can assign to a new variable called result. This is important because sometimes you might wish to return many results, but you cannot directly, not as such. You can use lists for that. We will come to that later. But for now, remember, whenever you run a function, you are creating a value that then can be assigned to a variable. Let us go back then to the to RStudio. And first I will create a vector containing a few numbers. Now, as you can see, this C and then parentheses, we use that to create vectors, but it is actually a function that takes many parameters, the numbers in this case, and then merges them, concatenates them into one value, which is a vector containing all these variables. So when I run that now with Control Enter, I have created a single variable that contains all these numbers. And now we can run a function on that, summary of A. We want to know what is the mean and the median and the quartiles of this vector. And here we get the summary. You can see that on the lower left part of the screen in the R command line interface. But as you can see, we have not assigned the result of summary to a variable. What happened here is basically summary is a function that took the parameter A, which we defined previously, did something with that, calculated the mean, calculated the median, etc., and then returned the value, which was the actual summary containing all these values here. However, we didn't do anything with that directly. We simply did not save it into variables. So R took this result, and by default, when R doesn't know what to do with a value, it just prints it. So this is what happened. It printed the value. But we could have done the following. We could have assigned the summary to a variable called summary A. And when we run that, We don't see anything happened here on the left lower side, but on the right side, we see there is a new variable called summary A. Now, if we simply type summary A, this will print the contents of the variable, and which will be this named vector with the summary values.